Chapter 1081. The 28 million transfer. Sun Shang and One Autumn Leaf. If Excellent Era were still a powerhouse in the Alliance, this would have been a very cheap price for Samsara. No character in the Alliance could compare to the battle god, One Autumn Leaf. Even if his three-peat had been achieved a long time ago, characters didn't age. The legend of the battle god's era would forever be etched onto him. Along with his former owner Yi Shu being excessively low profile, all of the people's hopes went onto the battle god's shoulders. No other glory character could compare in this manner. 28 million. If Excellent Era hadn't fallen so far, this price might not even be enough to buy One Autumn Leaf alone. Even if his prowess wasn't that much greater than the other god-level characters, One Autumn Leaf had always been the symbol of glory's king. If you asked any glory player which character was number one, everyone would answer One Autumn Leaf. There was no other answer. Even though Joe Zekai's Cloudpiercer had won 2 championships in a row, he didn't have the same legacy as One Autumn Leaf. In the past 2-3 years, he was the most popular among the new generation of players. However, even greater achievements had been accomplished by another in the past. In more people's eyes, number 1 still belonged to One Autumn Leaf. But now, Excellent Era had capsized. One Autumn Leaf hadn't stood at the top for a long time. In the end, One Autumn Leaf was abandoned along with the team by Dao Zan. 20 million. This was the price that Yi Shu had heard from Lu Guaning for One Autumn Leaf's price. Clearly, due to Excellent Era's current situation, One Autumn Leaf's value sunk along with the team. Of course, different teams might get different offers. For example, the price of 20 million given to Heavenly Swords might be different than what Samsara was offered. If the price was also 20 million, then Sun Jiang's transfer price would be 8 million. Compared to the price that Excellent Era had paid for him, it was higher instead of lower. That didn't make sense. Even though his talent and genius had been recognized by the scene, after Sun Shang transferred, Excellent Era had been relegated. Then, after a year through the Challenger League, they ended up losing the finals. Even if these disastrous results weren't because of him, his value would still be greatly affected. Excellent Era was currently on a sale too. His value increasing instead of decreasing wasn't logical. Neither side revealed how this price had been negotiated. However, from the total price of 28 million and Excellent Era's current situation, Excellent Era had gotten a good price. Or perhaps Samsara hadn't negotiated too hard. It was also possible that there were many others wanting to buy, so with Samsara's ambitions, Samsara didn't negotiate too much and quickly slammed down the hammer. There were numerous guesses. In the end, most people thought it was because of this type of reason. After all, whether it was Sun Shang or One Autumn Leaf, who wouldn't want them? Excellent Era might be in a difficult situation, but those two were very valuable. There was no need to worry that they could not be sold. The buyers had competition, so it was hard to avoid the price not being raised. If you thought about it like that, it was easy to see this current outcome. But in any case, this wasn't the focus of everyone's concern. Everyone cared more about the result itself. Samsara had taken in Sun Shang and One Autumn Leaf. As the newly championed team, it was somewhat surprising to see them make such a huge move so quickly. Sun Shang and One Autumn Leaf joining the alliance again wasn't an easy decision to make for any team. A core-level god, the number 1 character, it was a huge transfer that could completely remake a team. However, Samsara had Joe Zekai, the indisputable number 1 player in the alliance. No one believed that Joe Zekai would choose to leave the team. Even less people thought that Team Samsara would change their core that had brought them victory all this time. But now, there were 2 core players. How was Samsara planning on resolving this issue? It was a different situation than Tyranny. Tyranny's 4 ace players sounded even more problematic, but in reality, it was different. For one, when Han Wenqing declared something, even the club's boss would retreat. His authority in Tyranny was untouchable. What's more, Zhang Jiali and Lin Jingyan were at the ends of their career. They came to Tyranny because their desire to be the champions had yet to die. As for their core position, they didn't care anymore. They had been the core for so many years and were done it with long ago. Champions. They wanted to be champions. Zhang Jiali had given up so much for that goal. Who cared about being the core? Samsara was different. Joe Zakai's brilliance on stage might be spectacular, but he himself was like a piece of wood. He was a reliable ace player, but he definitely wasn't a good leader. Samsara's players were able to faithfully play alongside him, but what about Sun Xiang? He was a very prideful person. His addition to the team would be a huge challenge towards Joe Zakai's weak leadership. Would Team Samsara stay as harmonious as before? Would they put Sun Xiang as the core and Joe Zakai as the support? That didn't seem to be possible. For one, a team had to consider the fans. Such an upstage would definitely not go well with them. What's more, Sun Xiang didn't really seem to be much of a leader. And from what they had seen from him so far, if Joe Zakai's leadership ability tended towards 0, then Sun Xiang's leadership ability was a negative number. Samsara was going to be busy this summer. Everyone in the glory scene sighed. They clearly thought that the conflicting chemistry between the two would be a difficult problem to resolve. However, in the new esports home issue, besides this transfer, there was an article, written by famed author with the pen name Cha Xiaoxia, commenting on the transfer. Cha Xiaoxia felt that although Samsara's championship victory seemed to be a huge victory, a great danger hid beneath it. Tyranny's problem with their old players' stamina had given them an opportunity to win. If Tyranny had been able to keep up their peak form all the way through, it would be hard to say if Samsara would have been able to win. From the first match in the finals, Tyranny had a way to suppress Joe Zakai and Samsara's tempo. Facing Tyranny's stable formation, the problem with Samsara's lack of a direct attacker could clearly be seen. Samsara had been able to win because of the tournament format. That was what Cha Xiaoxia believed. If it had been the previous format, it wouldn't have been as exhausting, and Cha Xiaoxia believed that Tyranny would have most likely won in the end. Samsara absolutely recognized this issue. So even though they won the championships, Samsara wouldn't be like last year and not make any changes. This was because there was a team that could suppress them. Next season, Tyranny's old generals would definitely focus on fixing their stamina issue. Samsara couldn't hope for Tyranny to stay the same. Samsara needed to take the initiative to improve. However, improving wasn't something that could be done by fixing up their original foundation. Samsara had reached a bottleneck and needed to break through. As a result, they transferred over Sun Xiang and One Autumn Leaf. This might be why Samsara was willing to spend 28 million to quickly complete the transfer despite winning the championships. Cha Xiaoxia wrote. They needed a direct attacker. This type of attacker needed to be able to break through the concrete defense formed by Han Wenqing, Zhang Jiali, Lin Jingyan, and Zhang Jinji. Just from that requirement, very few players qualified. This wasn't something that an average pro player could hope to do. The only ones that could shoulder that burden were the Alliance's top attackers and top close combat characters. Thus, Sun Xiang and One Autumn Leaf. In addition to Excellent Era's current plight, anyone would make this choice. The key to their breakthrough had been found. However, it came with a problem. Sun Xiang was certainly a qualified choice, but because of how qualified he was, how to resolve the inner conflicts in the team would be a big issue. With how prideful Sun Xiang was, would he be willing to revolve around Joe Zakai as the core? Cha Xiaoxia also discussed this question in his article. He was optimistic about Samsara dealing with this problem. First of all, he looked favorably upon Sun Xiang's transformation. Getting relegated from the Alliance, losing the Challenger League, up until now, no god in the Alliance had suffered through such losses. Sun Xiang had once been a very prideful player and he still was in the Challenger League, but after these consecutive failures, shouldn't he turn his head to look at how he fell so far and examine himself? Sun Xiang's attitude would undoubtedly play a critical role in this problem. If he became more mature after learning from these failures, melding in harmoniously with Samsara wasn't impossible. In addition, Cha Xiaoxia mentioned the most underrated player in the Alliance, Zhang Batao. Samsara's vice-captain Zhang Batao had placed 5th in total votes for All-Stars. This seemed contradictory to underrated since he was clearly thought of very highly. However, Cha Xiaoxia felt like Zhang Batao was thought highly because of Joe Zakai's halo and the team's identity as champions. There were even people who claimed that even their grandma could pair with Joe Zakai and win the championships. That statement was naturally an exaggeration, but the contempt inside it was clear as day. Every player in Samsara had this issue. Whenever Samsara did well, everyone would credit it with Joe Sakai. As for the others, they were just there to bask in his light. Cha Xiaoxia didn't think this was the case. Cao Xiaoxia wrote that Zhang Batao was adept at communication. Anyone would feel comfortable interacting with him. He could show consideration for everyone in any scenario, and he wouldn't steal the spotlight either. Outside of the stage, Zhang Batao was this type of person. On stage, he was an expert at connecting everyone together. If he could successfully meld Zhou Zikai into Samsara, he should be able to do the same with Sun Shang. Zhang Batao was the glue that held the team together. Cao Xiaoxia straight up gave Zhang Batao a nickname. After excitedly analyzing the transfer and talking about his expectations for the Battle of Dragons between Tyranny and Samsara next season, he suddenly switched topics. People undoubtedly had high hopes for these two teams, but he felt like there was another team that shouldn't be ignored, the other champions this year, Team Happy. People are treating their declaration to win the championships next season as a joke, but I believe in them. What can I do? I'm already a Team Happy fanboy, Cha Xiaoxia wrote. Chapter 1082. Excellent Era Tag Transfers. As an experienced writer, Cha Xiaoxia had quite a lot of influence in the glory scene and quite a few fans as well. His analysis was accurate and logical, and as soon as his article was out, agreement spread among his readers. That's right, it was exactly as how he said it was. Then, with the last half-joking sentence about being a fanboy, many people began to take Happy more seriously. Happy's true strength immediately became a hot topic online, and many people were all eagerly anticipating an analysis of Happy's strength from Cha Xiaoxia. Apart from these hot topics, a few less eye-catching transfers were also happening in the background. During this time each year, there would definitely be a few free transfers. With everyone's attention on the golden generation, they had overlooked a few others. Among these free transfers, there was actually one rather well-known player. Liu Hao. The old Excellent Era vice-captain had come to Thunderclap in exchange for Xiao Shikin's transfer. In this season, Thunderclap performed rather well, hovering around the playoffs area throughout the entire season. Even though they didn't manage to get into the playoffs in the end, it wasn't someone people would look into. Thunderclap had also viewed Liu Hao as their core during this, although he never managed to do as well as Xiao Shikin had. Even so, Liu Hao had refused to renew his year-long contract with Thunderclap. He had never planned to stay in Thunderclap long. He had even planned on leaving during the winter transfer window. Who would have expected that the winter transfer window would coincide with the big update? All the teams in the market became cautious. No one wanted to fortify their strong teams during an uncertain time like just after a big update. As a result, Liu Hao's hopes were crushed. Now, he was a free player whose contract had expired. As the previous vice-captain of Excellent Era, Liu Hao's ability was quite outstanding. He hadn't managed to be voted into All-Stars, but he hadn't been too far from getting in either. It was just unfortunate that one of his competitors of the same class was Zhang Batao. With Samsara rising through the ranks, Zhang Batao's popularity skyrocketed and unfortunately, Liu Hao found himself squeezed out. Liu Hao wasn't at all satisfied with this situation, and he looked down on a team like Thunderclap, so he refused the offer to renew his contract. When summer arrived, Liu Hao finally received the offers he was hoping for. Among them, there was finally a powerhouse that he was satisfied with. Team Wind Howl. Liu Hao transferred to Wind Howl. This big news in the beginning of July was second only to Sun Shang and Su Mucheng's transfers. These people were all coincidentally from Excellent Era. Even though Liu Hao had already left Excellent Era for a year, it was clear that his Excellent Era tag was far larger than his Thunderclap one. In this time, the three transfers had people feeling that it was quite a shame to see how far Excellent Era had fallen. As for Liu Hao joining Wind Howl, people viewed this as a strong addition to a strong team. Ace player Tang Hao, the god of playing dirty Fang Rui, best rookie Zhao Yuji, and then the addition of Liu Hao. This lineup didn't look extremely spectacular, but it was very solid. With the positions of all the core members on the team's stable, getting a player like Liu Hao, who was just slightly worse than the others, was a good upgrade. However, Liu Hao's transfer reminded everyone of another person. Xiao Shikin. His contract had also expired. Even Liu Hao, who had been traded by Excellent Era for him, had already left, but there was still no news on Xiao Shikin. Xiao Shikin would naturally also receive a significant number of offers, and he would definitely have a wider range of choices than Liu Hao. Where would he go? In the discussions, the powerhouse teams were the most commonly brought up. No matter which one took in Xiao Shiken, they would gain an incredibly spectacular lineup. The alliance seemed to be walking towards an era where the greatest players all gravitated towards each other. But when news of Xiao Shiken's transfer came out, it made everyone's eyes pop. He had chosen to return to Team Thunderclap. To become a champion, he had left Thunderclap and came to Excellent Era in pursuit of his future. Then, a year later, Excellent Era hadn't managed to even return to the alliance and instead was facing disbandment. A few mean and sarcastic fans had already begun bringing up his past choices and mocking him for it. No one had ever guessed that he would return to Thunderclap. Everyone had thought that after Excellent Era's defeat, Xiao Shiken would work harder to prove that he had made the correct decision in leaving Thunderclap and join a team that was likely to win the championships. However, he returned to Thunderclap instead. This was no different from personally admitting his mistake in leaving. Did Xiao Shiken not even have the courage to prove himself anymore? No matter what rumors flew about, all of Team Thunderclap, including most of the fans, warmly welcomed Xiao Shiken. Welcome home. The day Xiao Shiken came back to Club Thunderclap, he saw many fans gathered outside with signs welcoming his arrival. When Xiao Shiken had chosen to leave, they had accepted his decision, and when Xiao Shiken was in an awkward situation, they still supported him. Xiao Shiken couldn't hold it in anymore, his tears falling onto his glasses. He got out of the car crying and returned to his old club amidst his fans. He had returned home. Then, Team Thunderclap announced that the club would be taking back the mechanic account Life Extinguisher, who had left with Xiao Shiken a year ago, as well as transferring Excellent Era's cleric, Zhang Jiaxing, over for a club record transaction of 9.5 million. This was a very low price for an all-star level account and the main healer of a powerhouse team. However, Life Extinguisher was a character that Thunderclap had brought up. Returning to Thunderclap with Xiao Shiken didn't seem like a fortification. It was Zhang Jiaxing's arrival that was considered a strong addition to the team. With their original healer having announced their retirement, Zhang Jiaxing's timely arrival was a boost to their strength. Thunderclap had another player who had been transferred over last year, Elementalist player He Ming. However, his contract was not just a year long like Lu Hao though. He was very anxious seeing Lu Hao leaving, while himself being unable to leave since he couldn't transfer yet. He had been prepared to ask if he could be transferred. But now with Xiao Shiken's return and Thunderclap's commendable act of managing to snatch Zhang Jiaxing as well, He Ming suddenly felt that Thunderclap might not be so bad. After all, he wasn't as outstanding as Lu Hao. With all the powerhouses having stable lineups, he would have a hard time joining a powerhouse team as a core member. With this, it seemed that staying in Thunderclap, he might at least become the main part of a team that could make the playoffs. There was still hope. Just as He Ming was feeling satisfied with this future, he received a notice from the club that he wasn't a part of the club's future plans. The club had decided to transfer him, and he could contact possible other teams himself. The club would support him. He couldn't leave when he wanted to, and he had to leave when he wanted to stay. He Ming was gritting his teeth so hard they might break. Plus, the club had already clearly stated that he couldn't just stay here and refuse to leave either. Pro players needed to compete, and those who weren't a part of the club's future plans naturally wouldn't be asked to do so. Getting an income without needing to compete? This seemed like paradise, but for pro players, this was an act that would destroy their futures. He Ming was a person with some aspirations, so he could only go and find a new team, seeing Thunderclap's attitude. Samsara, Tyranny, Tiny Herb, Blue Rain? He Ming wanted to go to these teams, but which one would pay him any attention? In the end, Thunderclap contacted a new club for him. He Ming nearly cried when he was informed of the team. Team Miracle. The team that had only just gotten approval to join the alliance, the team that would be fighting to stay in the alliance. He seemed to remember being Excellent Era's sixth player. It didn't make sense that he would fall to a team like this. He Ming wanted to refuse, but after the successive rejections from powerhouse teams, his confidence had taken a hit and he was a little afraid that no team would accept him. Just as he was hesitating, Miracle contacted him with all sorts of promises, such as how Miracle would continue to strengthen itself and definitely wouldn't accept being a team of the lowest tier. He Ming, seeing that no other team seemed to have any visible intentions to take him in, was rather moved by all that Miracle had promised him. He thought to himself, chicken head and phoenix tail. If he couldn't be the tail of a phoenix, it wouldn't be bad being the head of a chicken. At least he could enjoy the feeling of being a core member for once. In the end, He Ming agreed and joined Team Miracle for 2 million RMB. Team Miracle was delighted, mysteriously telling him that there would be a surprise for him. He Ming paused. Surprise? What surprise? Could it be that Team Miracle was planning on poaching an all-star level account like Windy Rain for him to use? Soon enough, the surprise Miracle had planned came. Excellent Era players Shen Jian and Wang Zi transferred to Team Miracle for a total of 1.725 million. He Ming wanted to cry. This was the so-called surprise? When the manager of Team Miracle asked him cheerfully, "How does it feel to be reunited with your old pals?" he really wanted to kick the guy's face in. 1.725 million. Just the price made He Ming feel embarrassed for Team Miracle. Just the 20,000 tagging on was enough of a joke, but you even added another 5,000 to that. How much did you negotiate to bullshit a 5,000 at the end of a transfer worth over $1 million? He really had been overthinking it, wondering if the team had bought Windy Rain. Never mind Windy Rain, it would be good enough if they could even get back their original characters. But they didn't. Shen Jian and Wang Zi had already arrived at Miracle and He Ming hadn't caught wind of any news of Miracle purchasing characters. The three old Excellent Era teammates looked at each other when they met in the practice room that reminded them of a mountain village primary school, speechless and feeling like they wanted to cry. Chapter 1083. Excellent Era hasn't fallen. The series of transfers at the beginning of July were practically all related to Excellent Era. Now, everyone was thoroughly convinced that the rumors of Excellent Era being put on the market weren't baseless. Even one autumn leaf had been renounced, shredding the last sliver of hope for the Excellent Era fans. No matter how much they protested, it would not be able to change Excellent Era's decision. Who can save Excellent Era? Questions like this appeared in every corner of the glory scene. Countless Excellent Era fans were signing a petition, but where were their hopes supposed to be sent to? Every Excellent Era was at a loss. They could only wait there foolishly. Then, all they saw were players leaving and characters being sold. Su Mucheng, Sun Shang, Xiao Shikan, Zhang Jinji. Dancing Rain, One Autumn Leaf, Life Extinguisher. After that, Club Excellent Era's training center constantly had people conducting on-site inspections. For Excellent Era, this was their training center, but buildings didn't have life. With just a bit of renovation, this place could become an office, a shopping center, anything people needed. This portion of the sale seemed to be unrelated to glory. The team emblem on the club's main entrance had been removed. Everything related to glory was being erased. The only thing that had yet to change was Excellent Era's stadium. There were rather limited applications for this type of building. There wasn't much of a market for it, but with Excellent Era gone, the existence of this stadium was meaningless. Perhaps this stadium might turn into a place for sporting events, but the people would no longer be seeing their familiar team and their team's matches. What would Excellent Era's future be like? A better question might be, did Excellent Era still have a future? No one knew the answer, but what they did know was that things related to Excellent Era were disappearing bit by bit. Their players and characters were being transferred to other teams. Excellent Era's facilities were being renovated. In the game, Guild Excellent Dynasty members discovered that the resources in their guild storage were decreasing day by day. These were all the various materials that Guild Excellent Dynasty had accumulated after many years of work. It was the symbol of Excellent Era's prosperity. And now, these materials were disappearing to who knew where. The sale of these materials wouldn't be reported in too much detail. From these series of changes going on in Excellent Era, the media had determined that the end of Excellent Era was set in stone. At this point, Excellent Era's former opponents, even Tyranny's fans, were finally unable to continue mocking them. They wanted to see Excellent Era being beaten by them again and again and hoped to see Excellent Era tumble over and over, but they had never wished for Excellent Era to completely die. Without Excellent Era, there would be a lot less brilliance. A sigh of sorrow from a Tyranny fan voiced out the thoughts and feelings of many. But so what? Regret, grievance, sorrow, these emotions wouldn't be able to solve any problems. At Happy, their second floor renovation was completed and now being used. The entire second floor had been divided into 5 sections: the practice room, strategy meeting room, research and development, Guild Happy, and the lobby. It was small, but complete. All of the core departments necessary in a pro team fit into this small second floor. Of course, if they expanded, they would also need departments such as human resources, financial affairs, external affairs, and so on. But for the current stage that Happy was at, Boss Chen alone would need to burden herself with these matters. What do you all think? Pretty nice, no? Chen Guo excitedly led everyone around to take a look. It totally feels like a secret base. It's like Robotech. Come on, don't deny it, Steam Bun said. Everyone laughed. Research and development. Guan Rongfei stood outside the R&D room and read the plate on the door. He grabbed the door handle and opened the door. Right, this is where you... Bang! Chen Guo introduced the room, while getting ready to let everyone take a look at their R&D department, but Guan Rongfei had already slammed the door closed, cutting off Chen Guo. Chen Guo was stunned. Fortunately, she had been in touch with Guan Rongfei for a while, so she had some understanding of him. After this guy got the data for the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, that was the only thing on his mind. Yi Shu once asked if he could help him compile a practice routine, but this guy was unwilling to do it. It took a lot of effort to get him to agree. Once he started working, the materials that Happy had accumulated disappeared swiftly. Chen Guo wanted to die. Yi Shu immediately reminded that guy, this is an excellent era. You can't squander these materials. Please try to be conservative and put more time into solidifying your theories. Don't just immediately start experimenting as soon as a tiny sliver of an idea appears in your mind. After that, his consumption of materials stabilized, but the materials were still disappearing at a heartbreaking rate. This let her understand that to raise a capable research developer, money was secondary. Whether or not you could provide enough resources for that developer was the main issue. The department under the most pressure was Wu Chen's guild department. These past few days had been sleepless nights. Taking advantage of the enormous amounts of attention towards Happy recently, he was pulling in players to join the guild like crazy, rapidly strengthening the guild. With more guild members, there were more small matters to deal with. Wu Chen didn't have a helper right now, so he had to do everything himself. Chen Guo saw him working and felt bad. A professional team's guild definitely shouldn't manage by a single person, so she talked with Wu Chen and started picking helpers from the guild. Chen Guo also allocated 2 million for Wu Chen to use. Those managing the guild wouldn't be doing it just for love. They needed a contractual obligation to do it too. Seeing Guan Rongfei shut himself in the R&D room, Wu Chen felt like he couldn't be slow either. He stepped in front of the door marked Guild Happy and asked, I'm here, right? Yeah, as soon as Chen Guo affirmed it, Wu Chen went inside. Chen Guo stood in the middle of the hallway, stunned. Everyone else was stunned too. But not long afterwards, those two came back. No internet. Yeah, people will be coming in the afternoon to hook up the Wi-Fi. Let's go along a different route. Chen Guo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Guang Rongfei and Wu Chen were helpless. They could only follow along with the team again. This area is our strategy room. Come. Let's all go in and take a look. Chen Guo led everyone into the strategy meeting room. The meeting room had a rather large window. The room itself was bright and clear. Right when they walked in, they suddenly heard a crash. What happened? Someone said in surprise. Following afterwards, everyone went to the window. The sound had come from outside. When they got to the window, everyone was silent. The noise had come from their neighbor across the street. Club Excellent Era's wall had been pushed over. This wasn't a riot. Excellent Era's facilities had clearly been sold already. It was probably the new owner renovating this piece of land. Excellent Era really has disbanded. Chen Guo felt moved. Her internet cafe had prospered thanks to Excellent Era. As the internet cafe across street from Club Excellent Era fans would naturally have an amicable feeling towards it and happily gathered here to play Glory. But after establishing Team Happy and challenging Excellent Era, the two had become enemies. Happy's business had been considerably impacted by that. In particular, many familiar faces stopped showing up at Happy. These people had almost been like friends to Chen Guo. And now, Happy was still here, but Excellent Era was gone. Where did those familiar faces go? When she finished thinking about all this, Excellent Era's wall had turned into a mess. Before anyone could say anything, an employee from the internet cafe suddenly called out, "Where's the boss? Someone's looking for her." "Who's looking for me?" Chen Guo said as she walked out. "He says his surname is Shaw. He's waiting downstairs," the employee said. Surname Shaw? Chen Guo was surprised. She didn't remember having any friends surnamed Shaw. "I'll go down," Chen Guo called out and then went downstairs with the employee. There were quite a few people standing outside Happy Internet Cafe, looking at the destroyed Excellent Era. "He's over there," the employee pointed at a figure. Chen Guo went over and was once again stunned. Surname Shaw. It was actually Sha Zongtian. "Shaw. Hi, Mr. Shaw," Chen Guo greeted. Sha Zongtian turned his head and looked at Chen Guo. He nodded his head, "Hi." Chen Guo saw that there was a youth standing next to Sha Zongtian. Isn't he Excellent Era's Chu Fei? Chen Guo had already realized something. "Come in. Let's go up and talk." Chen Guo was certain that he wasn't here just to say hello. He definitely had something to say. After telling them to go up, she told the employee, "Tell Yishu to come over to the lobby." On the second floor, Yishu was brought over by the employee. Right when he got to the lobby, he saw Chen Guo sitting together with Sha Zongtian and Chu Fei. He was also surprised. "Senior." This time, Chu Fei greeted first. "Hi." Yishu waved his hand and the four went into the lobby together. "I'll be taking over Excellent Era." Xiao Zongtian clearly wasn't someone who liked to mince his words. He immediately went straight to the point. "Oh, that's great." Yishu smiled. "Congratulations," Chen Guo also said. She pointed outside the window. "What are you planning to do there?" "I'm only taking over Excellent Era. That stuff's not included," Xiao Zongtian said. "Ah?" Chen Guo didn't understand. "Taking over Excellent Era is a personal matter. With my personal financial resources, I don't have the money to purchase Excellent Era's facilities. I can only guarantee that the name Excellent Era won't disappear," Sha Zongtian said. "You've even got a player with a lot of potential." Yishu smiled at Chu Fei. Chu Fei almost went to Tiny Herb. "Fortunately, I had already talked to Excellent Era and convinced him to stay," Sha Zongtian said. "Amazing," Yishu said. "Both of you are amazing. Praising us won't do. We'll definitely take revenge on Happy," Sha Zongtian said. But this time, I'll have to thank you for your suggestion last time, but Excellent Era won't be owing Happy," Sha Zongtian said. He took out a document from his briefcase and handed it over. "This is something I've helped you win over. It's a 1.4 million RMB sponsorship by Chai Tea Green. The formalities have already been arranged. All you need to do is sign it," Sha Zongtian said. "Arranged?" Yishu skimmed through it. "What if we don't want it?" Xiao Zongtian's eyes jumped. Chen Guo hastily grabbed it from him. "He's just joking. We want it, we want it." She quickly signed it. "The contract is only for 1 year. Next year, whether it's renewed or not will depend on you," Sha Zongtian said. "Us? Don't you mean you?" Yishu smiled. "Me? I'm no longer a part of Chai Tea Green. I'm going to lead Excellent Era and beat your Happy," Sha Zongtian said. "You'll be playing on stage?" Yishu asked. Xiao Zongtian's eyes jumped again. Unfortunately, he couldn't personally take revenge on Happy. He had been destroyed 10 times by Yishu in just 5 minutes. "Senior, next time, let's meet on stage." Seeing that they were going to be leaving, Chu Fei called out to Yishu. "I'll see you on stage." Yishu smiled. "I'll be going." Sha Zongtian was already at the door. "You're going to be leaving already? As a newbie, don't you want to learn from Happy's newly renovated center?" Yishu said. Xiao Zongtian glanced at the tiny second-floor layout. After a long time, he squeezed out "not bad" and then left. Excellent Era hasn't fallen. Small as the sparrow is, it possesses all its internal organs. Chapter 1084. Change. Someone was finally taking over for Excellent Era. The news came out on the day that Sha Zongtian and Chu Fei came to visit. The fans of Excellent Era, who had fallen into despair, were all suddenly brought back to life. Especially after they heard who had taken over, they were even more excited. Which City H person didn't know Chai and Green Tea's influence? But soon enough, in the press conference Excellent Era held, they found out the truth. The decision to buy Excellent Era was completely a personal decision made by Sha Zongtian. It had nothing to do with Chian Green Tea. In addition, Chian Green Tea didn't intend to sponsor Excellent Era because of their relationship with Sha Zongtian. The ones that they were sponsoring was Team Happy, who had defeated Excellent Era and joined the alliance. What was going on? The excited Excellent Era fans didn't have the calm to try and figure it out. It wasn't as wonderful as they first thought, but Excellent Era still existed and there was nothing that was more of a delight than that. It was just a shame that one autumn leaf left them. They hoped that the symbol of Excellent Era would stay with them and fight beside them forever. But it was all too late for that. Chufei, combat form. For the press conference, this was the way that the fans saw Excellent Era's future. The Excellent Era of the new season would continue to compete in the Challenger League. This time, they were no longer a powerhouse, no longer an insurmountable presence in the Challenger League. They would fight with their all against every team and keep winning until they eventually reached the end and returned to the Alliance to rebuild the glory of Excellent Era. Long live Excellent Era! Tonight was the first time in a long time that Excellent Era fans had tasted happiness. Their hopes were not in vain. No matter how small, hope was still hope. Goodbye, powerhouse. New Excellent Era has begun its journey. The news used headlines like this to report Excellent Era's final transactions. By now, it seemed that all of what made up Excellent Era had been sold. The old club Excellent Era had been completely reconstructed and new Excellent Era had moved to the place 20 kilometers away next to Stone Road. Everything had become very simple and crude, but everything was still there. As for Happy, they had all settled into their new headquarters. Everyone had started doing what was done on holidays in their own rooms. Brother Yi, someone is looking for you. That was when one of the employees of the internet cafe came up to deliver this message. Since the upper floor was Happy's headquarters now, they naturally wouldn't let just anybody come up. Coming, Yi Shu replied, leaving his computer. After exiting the training room, he took the chance to light a cigarette and took a few quick puffs. Smoking wasn't allowed in the training room. That was a rule that Chen Guo had took from the other clubs. This made Yi Shu and Wei Chen extremely uncomfortable. However, the veterans of the team should be role models for the others, so the two had to endure it. What made things even more painful was that there was no point in them being role models because they were the only ones who smoked in the team. Who's looking for me? Yi Shu took a few steps towards the internet cafe employee, and by then half his cigarette was already gone. He said his surname was Dao, the internet cafe employee said. Surname Dao? Yi Shu paused for a moment, looking down. It was Dao Zan. Wanna come up and chat? Yi Shu asked. That's not necessary, I'm about to leave, Dao Zan replied. Yi Shu noticed the luggage beside him. It seemed like he was going somewhere far away. You. After being exhausted for so long, I plan to go and enjoy myself, Dao Zan said. Where? Somewhere out of the country. All these years and I spent most of it locked up indoors. I want to go out of the country and experience what life has to offer, Dao Zan said. Oh, are you going to check out foreign glory leagues and their glory teams? Yi Shu asked. Dao Zan paused for a long while before nodding. Maybe. I wish you success, Yi Shu said. And I you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Cigarette burnout. In the time it took to smoke half a cigarette, Dao Zan had left. He had come all this way to visit, but left with just a few simple words. Were they still friends? Yi Shu didn't know either. He knew that everyone had their own path. These paths might converge, but they might also diverge. No matter what, you had to walk your own path. He would continue to walk down his. Dao Zan would too, probably. Yi Shu threw the cigarette nub away, returning to the upper floor. He entered the training room and returned to his own seat. Who was it? Su Mucheng's current seat was beside his and she asked him nonchalantly. Dao Zan, Yi Shu said. Dao Zan, what did he come here for? He said he's going to visit some other countries, Yi Shu replied. Is it necessary to hide so far? Su Mucheng said. Is he hiding? Maybe, Yi Shu smiled, putting his headphones back on and going back to the game. Where did you all go? Yi Shu sent the message into the guild chat, Guild Happy. They were still playing in the online game. Even though they had entered the alliance and become a pro team, for a grassroots team like Happy, their pro players couldn't leave the grunt work to others. They had to fight in the online game to deal with their lack of resources. All this was like how the alliance was when it first started. The players of every team spent all of their free time in the game. They trained as they earned materials and equipment. Back then it was common to see all those famous IDs in the game. But now, even if a player wanted to do this, it wouldn't be the same. If the current pro players wanted to play in the online game, they had to use a Smurf account. As for their pro accounts, most of them were parked in the arena. For Happy, we had to continue working hard in the game. In fact, they had to work even harder because their future opponents would all be at the level of the final boss, Excellent Era, in their last season. They couldn't ensure that their skill would peak each match and they would achieve a miracle every single time. They had to improve continuously. This was like a race. From the very beginning, they were never on the same starting line as their opponents. Happy was working hard in the online game, but this time, it wasn't just them who was working so hard. We prepared for this match for a full year. That was what Yi Shu had answered in the first press conference he attended after he won the championship of the Challenger League. The memory was fresh in Xiao Shiqin's mind. Happy's defeat of Excellent Era was known as a miracle. However, miracles couldn't lack hard work. Happy had worked hard and accomplished a miracle. What had Excellent Era been doing in this year? Excellent Era was also working hard, but all of the hard work was directed towards the alliance. The only thing that they discussed was what they would do after returning to the alliance. They had neglected the Challenger League because they thought that this was something that couldn't go wrong. Even Xiao Shiqin had thought the same way. If he didn't think that way, then he would have never joined Excellent Era. It wasn't until Yi Shu and Happy slowly surfaced that Xiao Shiqin found that even though Excellent Era said that they didn't think Happy was any sort of threat, in their hearts, they were actually terrified of Yi Shu. It was then that Excellent Era started taking the Challenger League seriously, but this seriousness was only directed at Yi Shu. To win the finals, Excellent Era had also worked hard. However, compared to the full year that Happy had spent, Excellent Era hadn't done nearly as much. Opportunity always smiles on those who are prepared. This was something that was always said, something that everyone said, but when everyone was prepared, who would opportunity smile upon? It was obviously those who were more prepared. Happy had been more prepared, so they were the ones that were given an opportunity that was called a miracle. Most people would think that Xiao Shiqin had wasted a year, but Xiao Shiqin thought that he had been taught an important lesson in this year. Now, he had returned to Thunderclap. He would never again be the person who wasn't prepared enough. He had to be more prepared than anyone. From the very first day, he began to prepare with the entire team. It had been a year since the big update, but things had yet to stabilize. As the competitions came to a close, the players of the pro teams wouldn't invest so much into the online game. Now the start of the summer holidays, Xiao Shiqin felt that this was the perfect time to fortify his team. To defeat Excellent Era, a team like Happy could prepare for a year. If they, Thunderclap, wanted to do well in the alliance, then they would have to start early. Dumb birds fly first. Why had he never thought of that before? Captain Xiao, Team 3's 4 members have arrived at their positions. The voice coming from the game brought Xiao Shiqin back to the present. Oh, tell them to make sure to keep hidden. Chengtai, take a team to the right flank. Yanqi, you go with Chengtai. Hey, you've only come back for a few days, Captain, and you're already chasing me away. I want to stay with Captain, Dai Yanqi sulked. Don't joke around, hurry up and follow. Xiao Shiqin started to sweat. He hadn't seen her for a year and she had gotten even bolder, daring to tease even him. She was Thunderclap's devil. Who knew what Thunderclap would be like if she ever became the captain? However, Dai Yanqi was merely joking around. Her elementalist had already begun following Chengtai's team as she spoke. Captain Xiao, Captain Xiao. That was when a character ran over, yelling for him. What's wrong? Another guild has arrived, the newcomer said. Which one? It's Happy. Happy. Just hearing this name would cause Xiao Shiqin's emotions to go haywire, but he soon composed himself. How many people and how far are they? About 1 team, they'll be here in about 5 minutes, the newcomer said. That guy would definitely be in Happy's formation. Compared to the Challenger League last season, the Pro League would be even harder. They would definitely start preparing earlier and spend a lot of time in the online game. This was something that he had taken out of their book. He hadn't thought that they would have the chance to fight again so soon. Everyone over here, come with me. Avoid Happy for now. As Xiao Shiken spoke, he led the team away from their original hiding spot. Traps. Don't leave traps, go and dismantle them. Xiao Shiken acted as if he were leading a pro match, serious and careful. Thunderclap's players all felt that after their captain had left for a year and come back, he had changed. In the past, his arrangements and tactics had given the feeling of doing all you could under heaven's mandate. Now, it felt like he wanted to rebel against fate. Thunderclap would definitely change because of this. Chapter 1085. The Rookie That Doesn't Listen. Under Xiao Shiken's careful commands, Thunderclap's players didn't leave a trace. Xiao Shiken and two of his teammates, Fang Zukai and Zhang Qi, were left behind. Fang Zukai was an assassin. He had joined Thunderclap a year after Xiao Shiken and was a good friend of his, who had played alongside Xiao Shiken for many years. Zhang Qi was a rookie that had become a pro player only last year. Xiao Shiken had already left by the time he joined. This rookie hadn't been very accepting of Xiao Shiken's choice to leave, but all he felt from the other team members was their heartfelt respect for Xiao Shiken. Once, he inadvertently said something a bit disrespectful and had been admonished by Dai Yanqi, who had acted as if she were his senior, despite only joining the team 1 year earlier than him. The expression of the other team members were very unfriendly as well. Zhang Qi felt gloomy. He was just a rookie though. How could he complain? He could only silently endure it. When he heard the news of Team Excellent Era losing, Zhang Qi rejoiced at his misfortune. But then, Xiao Shiken unexpectedly returned to Team Thunderclap. This made Zhang Qi somewhat spiteful of him. The other team members cheerfully accepted Xiao Shiken's return though, making Zhang Qi feel even more disappointed in his team. No backbone. The players and the team didn't have any backbone. This was the feeling in Zhang Qi's heart, but he didn't dare criticize anyone. When he saw how Xiao Shiken's return was treated so well, his heart only became more unbalanced. Soon afterwards, Xiao Shiken immediately assumed the position of captain. Then, he called for everyone to go into the game and fight bosses for materials. Is this something a pro player should be doing? Zhang Qi looked around. No one in the team seemed to object. He didn't dare break away from the entire team, so he could only go into the game with the team. Now, he was following behind this no-backbone Xiao Shiken. They were hiding in a bush for who knew what reason. They're here, Fang Zukai suddenly whispered. Got it, Xiao Shiken replied. Zhang Qi shifted his camera and saw a bunch of guild-happy characters majestically enter the woodlands on this hillside. Zhang Qi turned his head and looked at Xiao Shiken, who wasn't sitting far away from him. Not only did he look vigilant, he even seemed nervous. Really? We're just playing in the game. Zhang Qi thought rather disdainfully. Zhang Qi, when you turn your camera, be gentler. At this moment, Xiao Shiken's voice suddenly came in from his headphones. Zhang Qi stared blankly. They'll notice the rustling of the bush, Xiao Shiken said. Oh, Zhang Qi replied. As for his real thoughts, HMPH, coward. Zhang Qi didn't treat Xiao Shiken's warning seriously. He didn't think that this caution was necessary. After Happy's people arrived, they rapidly dispersed. Take note of each team's whereabouts. Xiao Shiken assigned this role to 3 players. Zhang Qi checked the direction that he was responsible for. Gently, gently, Xiao Shiken reminded again. Annoying. Zhang Qi nearly blurted it out, but he was able to stop himself. But under this urge, not only did he not turn gently, he turned even more roughly. Since he had already finished turning, it was too late for Xiao Shiken to say anything more. Xiao Shiken furrowed his brow, but didn't say anything in the end. Zhang Qi was bored to death as he watched that direction attentively. Guild Happy had 2 teams coming this way. After coming to a certain distance from them, the 2 teams split up. One team continued straight at them, while the other team moved diagonally to the left. What's there to look at? Zhang Qi was distracted. Suddenly, he heard Xiao Shiken shout, not good. Run. Then, he saw Xiao Shiken and Fang Zukai run out from the bushes at the same time. Their movements were extremely fast. Zhang Qi hadn't been very focused. He didn't respect Xiao Shiken's orders either. Whenever an order came out, he would always complain in his mind first before doing anything. That was practically a habit now. Now that an order required his immediate action, how could he not be slower than the others? A satellite beam descended from the skies, directly hitting this bush. Xiao Shiken and Fang Zukai had promptly escaped to dodge it, but Zhang Qi was hit because of that slight hesitation. F***ck, Zhang Qi cursed as his character started wobbling away. But then the satellite beam split into 8 smaller pillars. He had taken the satellite beam straight to the face and now he was about to be hit twice. Where's the attack coming from? Zhang Qi was too busy to figure out the answer to that question. Escaping was more urgent. He saw a gap between 2 pillars and rushed towards it. Slow down, Xiao Shiken shouted. Only you would slow down. At a critical moment, Zhang Qi complained even faster. He completely ignored Xiao Shiken's warning to slow down. His character continued to sprint. Suddenly, he saw that gap flash and one of the pillars split into 2, filling up the gap. His character just happened to be caught by it. Zhang Qi turned pale with fright, but his character was already in a stunned state from this attack. Light pillar after light pillar smashed into his character. 8. No, there were clearly 12 of them. The satellite beam pillars that initially hit him weren't 2, but 3. 2 of them had been overlapping, making it difficult for Zhang Qi to distinguish between the 2. But Xiao Shiken had warned him to slow down. Could he have seen through it? Zhang Qi felt somewhat ashamed. Let alone anything else, just being hit by every single light pillar from satellite beam was shameful enough. Right when that pillar of light finished sweeping the area, he saw a battle mage with a guild happy tag charge towards him. Do these guys think I'm that easy to bully? I'm not an ordinary player. Zhang Qi angrily welcomed his opponent, swinging his sword with a destruction slash. He was planning on giving this battle mage, who didn't know how high the heavens were, a lesson. But when his sword flashed, that battle mage didn't slow down and nimbly dodged it. The battle mage's spear thrust towards him at the same time. Zhang Qi's destruction slash wasn't completed yet. However, that battle mage's dragon tooth had already arrived. Zhang Qi was once again alarmed. It was too late to cancel his skill. Dragon tooth hit, and he was put into a stunned state. The other side used a sky strike to knock him into the air and then went behind him, sending him flying away with a falling flower palm. Bang! Zhang Qi's berserker tumbled in the air. At the very last moment before he was sent flying away from his original location, he saw Xiao Shiken and Fang Zukai rush over to try save him. That battle mage welcomed them fearlessly. Zhang Qi's berserker fell to the ground. He didn't forget to quick recover at least as his character got up. However, he soon discovered that he was trapped. A whole bunch of characters surrounded him. Zhang Qi was only able to utter a single word when the enemy weapons fell, unleashing all sorts of skills. The wave of focused attacks instantly killed him. I'm a pro player. Zhang Qi had wanted to yell that out, but he was instantly killed before he could say anything. What just happened? Zhang Qi had trouble regaining his composure. Everything had happened too quickly. A few seconds ago, he had been waiting in a bush, throwing insults at Xiao Shiken in his head. A few seconds later, he was a corpse lying on the streets. Are you joking? He had never died so quickly even on the pro stage. Zhang Qi was stunned. The ghost world was deathly silent. Everything on the battlefield had nothing to do with him. But Zhang Qi could hear sound, Xiao Shiken's voice. He was giving orders. He and Fang Zukai were crossing swords with the other side. Zhang Qi turned his head to look over. Xiao Shiken looked focused and also nervous. What's there to be nervous about? Those were his thoughts a few seconds ago. Now, the not nervous him was already dead. Zhang Qi prepared to revive. Suddenly, a notification flashed, Cleric Haruir has cast Resurrection on you. Do you want to revive or not? Zhang Qi immediately clicked yes. His character stood up and then pounced forward. What are you doing? Zhang Jiaxing's voice came from the practice room. Zhang Qi was at a complete loss. He discovered that all of his teammates were looking at him as if he were an idiot. Wait until the right opportunity to revive, Zhang Jiaxing mumbled to himself. He was a newcomer, after all. For Thunderclap, he was even newer than Zhang Qi. If this were Excellent Era, he wouldn't let this matter go with just a word or two. A healer's status in the team was quite high. Zhang Qi finally woke up. He actually chose to revive while trapped in the enemy ranks. This decision was extremely stupid. Trying to deny it would be stupid. Sorry, my bad, Zhang Qi said. Zhang Qi, pay attention to orders, Fang Zukai followed up. Okay, Zhang Qi replied dumbly. If he had listened to orders, would things have turned out differently? Zhang Qi couldn't help but glance at Xiao Shikan. He was the same as ever, focused but also nervous. Team 1, don't advance. Retreat 5 coordinates. Team 4, take the place of Team 3. Team 5, hold on. Support will be arriving soon. Team 6 healers, support Team 5. Thunderclap's support hurried over, clashing with Happy. Xiao Shikan didn't plan on deciding the winner here though. He noted their goal, to kill the boss, not to win versus any other guild. Fighting Happy was out of helplessness. However, he soon realized that Happy's offensive wasn't that fierce. It seemed like they were also clear-headed. They also knew that this battle was pointless. The leaders of the two sides had a mutual understanding. With neither side suffering too heavy casualties, the troops on both sides started to retreat. Not long afterwards, the battle stopped. Amidst Happy's troops, a battle mage walked out with a spear on his shoulders. You're working hard. Xiao Shikan saw that it was the battle mage that sent Zhang Qi's berserker flying. So it was you, Xiao Shikan said. Who do you think it was? Yi Shu said. Who else could it have been? Xiao Shikan said. Apart from Yi Shu, there was only Tang Ru. If it were her, she wouldn't have been so low profile. Yi Shu smiled. Xiao Shikan suddenly thought of Tang Ru's dragon breaks the ranks. For her battle mage, the image of that skill gave the deepest impression. Where was she hiding now though? The previous battle hadn't been too intense. Xiao Shikan hadn't found Happy's other players yet. As a result, he could only instruct his troops, when we fight again in a bit, pay attention to that battle mage. Kill him in one wave. At the same time, in Happy's troops, when we fight again in a bit, pay attention to that mechanic. Kill him in one wave. The boss is here. At this time, the two sides received the news. Fight. The two leaders gave the order. Thunderclap immediately focused on that battle mage. Happy immediately focused on that mechanic.